What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Thermo Diet Podcast. My name is Christopher Walker, and I'm here with Jason Miller.
How's it going?
And Brenton.
You could turn it into Brandon or something, too.
Brenton Leisure.
Bernard
Leisure.
Works out well.
How you guys doing this morning?
Doing good.
Bright and early morning.
Yeah, feeling good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I just kicked off that Thermo thing, so.
Yeah, well, that's what this episode is going to be all about. So Brenton's just beginning his Thermo journey.
Yes, indeed. I'm like maybe 4 or 5 days into it now, and it's going really well. Like, I was noticing the other day, I think I was mentioning to Jayden, like, I was doing some pull-ups in the gym, and like, I'm already feeling like different, like, I'm able to get a couple more reps out, and I'm just like, whoa, all of a sudden I feel lighter, but it's just muscle building up and stuff. It's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is just getting into some of the details with Brenton on some of the stuff that he's experienced, some of the things that you could experience and likely will as you begin Thermo. Because, usually we're talking about it from a place of like doing it for a long time, but a lot of people are new to Thermo and they have a lot of different questions. So what we're going to do is run through the questions and just have a good conversation here.
Just so happens this is also at the beginning of Thermo30.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Facebook group right now, we got Thermo30 rocking.
Yeah.
Today's the second day.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of recording this, I don't know when it's going to come out,
Yeah.
when you're going to be listening to it. But
Yeah.
if you're not in the Facebook group, then what are you doing? Join the Facebook group. This is the best group on Facebook.
Get in the boat.
Yeah. A lot of awesome people in there, and we coordinate group Thermo30s together, so it's a sense of community while you're doing it, and so far it's going great.
Yeah, it's been really helpful even for me, just kind of seeing other people post up their meals or different ideas for how to stay thermo.
Yeah.
It's been really cool. Like, I mean, that was one thing that we've talked about already a lot, is just it's not a hard diet to follow. You know what I mean?
No.
You're just swapping it out with like good ingredients and whatnot. It's delicious.
Yeah, it's quite easy because there's no restriction really involved. It's just more a matter of like focusing on certain good stuff.
Yeah.
And then swapping better quality food, which ends up tasting better. So therefore you start to like, your palate starts to get adjusted to that.
That's what I've noticed too, is that all of a sudden you start craving these things that like are a lot more healthy for you, as opposed to fast food or whatever, that we kind of fall into natural cravings of. That's been a cool thing too.
Yeah, one thing I found is especially with meat, like as I have gone through the last few years, like focusing on eating much higher quality meat.
Yes.
When you eat low quality meat, you're like, I can't even eat this.
Dude.
It just tastes disgusting.
I forgot to get the grass fed for the first couple, and I was like, whoa, this is like, you feel like you're just tasting factory farming, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that tastes like.
It just tastes off.
Yeah,
like there's
right?
something wrong here.
There's like some chemical crap going on here, and
Yeah.
it's not fun. And I switched over to grass fed, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is so much better.
Yeah, grass-fed beef, it's like candy.
Yeah,
right?
it's
It's so damn good.
It's kind of like cardboard versus actual meat.
It's exactly
Yeah,
like
That's
that.
how I
Yeah.
see it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cardboard versus
Like a Wagyu steak or something.
yeah. So all right, so what would you say before you started doing Thermo in the last week? What would you say was like your biggest question or apprehension about it?
Honestly, the biggest thing I was looking at was like, how the hell am I going to get this much protein in my diet? Because I was, I would eat, I would do a lot of fasting in the morning and stuff, and I'd have like maybe a steak or something at night. But I was getting maybe 10 to 20, grams of protein in my diet in a day. And then I think when I was figuring out the macros for the Thermo diet, it was like, and I'm blanking out, 50 to 60. Does that sound about right as far as protein?
Usually most people like kind of like guys like our size, it'd be somewhere around 130 to 160.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's because I was thinking,
like
like, okay, 40 to 60. But then I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be eating steak all day, like steak for breakfast, steak, and then, but it was like with collagen and protein or bone broth, that was like the game changer. And I was like, okay, I can just mix that into anything, and it tastes great. Like, because I do those thermo smoothies during the day, get a good amount of protein from that, and then at night you come. And that's where I felt the biggest difference in the gym. Like all of a sudden, it's like, oh, that's where that strength's coming from.
That's interesting. Yeah, because most people, so they, I guess people that aren't doing thermo, they typically fall into one side or the other.
Yes.
of the spectrum of like going in their daily protein intakes usually it's either very low or very high.
Sure.
Like especially a lot of people like just fitness oriented people kind of buy into a bit of a myth around needing like a massive amount of protein.
Sure.
But that one's interesting. I've talked about it a lot before in other areas is just like in terms of the actual research on hormones. When you overconsume protein, which in this case tends to be, it depends on weight and everything, but tends to be like anywhere over that 160 level, 170 for a guy. It has a negative hormonal impact on the body because within a limited calorie range, you're limiting the two macronutrient groups, carbs and fats, which actually have a more important impact on a healthy hormone profile.
Sure.
So unless someone's just kind of like eating a lot, which then they end up having issues with their hormones anyway because they're overeating too. So
right.
it's interesting. Like it's either low protein that people go for or they go for extremely high protein, but the sweet spot's right in the middle.
That's one thing too. That like since talking to you guys, you know, I've tried doing like the keto diet or, you know, those kind of like just cut out one macro really hard diets. And those are the most difficult diets to follow. You know what I mean? For some reason, those become really popular. But like Thermo becomes extremely easy when it's like, oh, it's just about balancing these three things as opposed to just like hard cutting one out.
Well, I think those diets get popular because people think there's some sort of magic bullet, like a magic trick to being healthy and lean and
it's easy, right?
High energy and that. Yeah, they think it's got to be some sort of like, this has to be a secret. It has to be some like radical thing that I've never done. But the funny thing is most people have never done anything balanced, so they don't know. Right. Yeah, they don't know what it feels like to just approach it with a much more of a lifestyle in mind.
Right. For a lot of people, balance just becomes, oh, I'm going to eat out less or, you know, whatever. Yeah.
But I think all that comes down to the fact that no one defines health, which we've talked about before.
Yes.
And I think it's just like, if you have no reference point, nothing matters. Therefore, it's just this chaotic, like nebulous of thoughts and ideas just getting bombarded into people's heads. Like, this is the new diet that's going to change your life. This is the new thing. You got to do this radical thing. You got to do this crazy thing. But if they have, and they're susceptible to it because they have no real definition of what health actually is for them.
Sure.
So that's what we're trying to do here too, is just define what health is. Being, you know, you're not deficient in any micronutrients, amino acids, and anything like that, and you're hormonally balanced. So if you're looking at it through that lens, you start to realize like, oh, I can't cut out whole macronutrient groups.
Yes.
I can't go extremely low or extremely high in protein. I have to approach it with this more of a balanced mindset because I actually have a real goal now that I'm shooting for.
And I'm not going to let myself just kind of run to whatever diet's coming up at the time.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. I mean, honestly, man, like just being around you guys has helped a lot. I mean, I started working here, I think 5 months ago, and you know, I was probably more 80-20 Thermo, you know, coming into this before. But honestly, I lost like 25 to 30 pounds just taking supplements, just incorporating some of the principles that you guys are talking about just by hanging around you. Yeah. And it's been really awesome. I'm looking forward to this Thermo30 because of that.
Yeah, so recap to this point, you've lost 25 to 30 pounds doing Thermo.
Yeah.
And now you're pushing it into...
Now I'm like, let's go 100%. Yeah, let's see what it is like
so
to
like
do those.
80-20 Thermo, that's a good point because that's... Like I've said it a few times already on the podcast, but I do want people to approach Thermo with a healthy mindset, which for a lot of people, it might be that sort of progression where like, say you start with 80-20 Thermo and start making like the high leverage decisions. Like I'm not going to eat PUFAs. I'm going to start going for higher quality sources of my food, but I'm not also going to worry about too much outside of like these big leverage things. And then just doing that, you lost 25 or 30 pounds in the last few months. And then now going full Thermo is a lot easier, probably in your mind.
Oh, it's so much easier. And it was, the funny thing is, I mean, for years before that, I was, you know, going on these other kind of diets, trying to drop weight, and I got 5 pounds. You know, it was just like little things here and there where you're just dropping water weight. And this kind of like transition in has been a really natural way to do it. You know, I appreciate even the way that you guys kind of approach it, which is like, you don't have to blow up your life. You don't have to be that guy that stays at home only eating meat. You know what I mean? Like there's still an appreciation for going out and having a social life, you know, going and participating in other things. Yeah. It doesn't have to ruin your life.
Now you're married too, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
And so how has your wife kind of accepted this?
It's been pretty cool. Like, I mean, she's kind of also getting a lot of these principles even through us talking about things, you know, as we're going. You know, it just kind of naturally comes up as we're cooking and whatnot that I'll be like, oh, you know, the canola oil, we should probably throw that stuff out. Like that's, you know, and then kind of all the stuff is just kind of coming up, and it's been really cool. It's been another point that, you know, we can even talk about things and kind of grow. So it's been awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah, we've noticed like in the Thermo group on Facebook, there are actually quite a few couples in there.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, right.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Which probably makes it easier in general at home, you know, just doing
Not
it
cooking
together.
2 meals or
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
What about, so you have a couple dogs too, right?
Yeah,
Just got a new dog?
Yeah, we did just get a new dog. It's been cool. Like honestly, like I don't know if for the Thermo30 thing, the 10,000 steps thing, my dogs have been loving that part.
Oh,
because
yeah,
all
I'm
I do is I wake up before work, go take them for a walk. I'll do like a couple walks with Jayton during the day, and then I'll come back and then do another walk with my wife with the dogs, and they're just like they're going nuts about it now.
Cool.
And it helps. I get a little extra, you know, steps in, and that's another thing I'm trying to do. Like, you know, we try to aim for like the 10,000 steps or whatever. I've been trying to aim for like maybe 12,000, so just in case that last one kind of falls off, you know, if something comes up, I can still
if you like build your daily pattern in a way that like maybe it's pouring rain at night or something, you know, you can't hit that last walk.
Mess up your whole day or
Cool. Are your dogs Thermo?
Oh, we're working on it. We're getting them there. We're getting them there. Actually, yeah, that's a whole nother. We could do a whole nother podcast on dog food.
No, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, I really want to eventually bring our product line into pets, and because pets are like completely underserved in terms of good nutrition, good supplements.
Yeah.
You see all the time headlines about this dog food or that dog food causes cancer in the dogs, and like it's just shit food.
What they can put in dog food is like they can put literally roadkill in, and it's legal. Like they can put like if a farmer has all his crops or all his cows die out from some disease, they can put that into dog food and it's fine. It's completely legal.
Messed up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or filled with PUFAs. Like, have you ever seen a dog try and eat seeds or something like that? They don't.
That's
exactly.
true.
I was watching this funny. It was hilarious. It was this viral video of like 2 golden retrievers sitting at a table. I think it had 19 million views or something. It was like they were just sitting at a table and they each had a plate in front of them, and they like the person. It was funny because this person like made the little like the dog voice, and they were like kind of talking back and forth and like having a little banter between the two of them.
Okay.
But the owner was filming it and was giving them different types of food, and it was really interesting because like they start out with something that both of them are like kind of like, all right, whatever. And then they get like a carrot, they get a strawberry, and one of them doesn't like the strawberry, the other one does. And then you have, the owner gives them each a steak, and they're just like going nuts, right?
Dude.
And then the owner gives them each a leaf of arugula. And they both just look at it, and then that's when it started getting really funny because I can't remember exactly what they said, but like the dogs were like saying,
right?
So like I can't believe you did this, Karen. Like, what, you know? And it was funny because they're just like, yeah, we're not gonna eat that,
right?
Like they didn't care at all, and they're just trying to get it out of their way,
right? Yeah.
For, like, where's the steak? Like, bring us more steak.
Right, give us what we actually want.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to do that. We do like a raw patty or something that we'll just have like raw beef in it, and they go. It's a noticeable difference. They go nuts for that stuff.
I mean, they're way healthier if they're eating meat.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. It's like the whole vegan cats conversation, right? Like, it's just not healthy to feed.
It's just not the way they are. Like, you can't fight the nature of that animal.
Right.
And it's the same with us.
Right. We try to impose these like weird human ideas onto them, and it doesn't work like that.
They get sick.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, cool. So, you've felt, more energy.
Yes.
Especially since in the last week going full thermo.
Yes. Feeling in the
more
gym.
More energy in the gym.
Sleeping better. Yeah, I'm noticing I just drop right out and fall asleep. That's been really good, especially when I started doing the thermo bowls a little earlier. I know we had talked about that a little bit, like trying to make sure that you do get that earlier, because otherwise you're digesting during the night, or what's going on there?
Oh, there's something going on. I mean, it was something like Zach and I first noticed when we were experimenting with thermo bowls, coming up with the concept. Like we would, the first time we were trying it, we were eating it at night. It's probably 8 o'clock, maybe somewhere around there.
Sure.
And we would eat it, and then we, especially when you're just going really full thermo, you notice how you warm up, like your body is warm.
Yeah.
So you start to almost sweat, or you do sweat. And then it was like kicking in an hour later or so, where we'd have so much energy that couldn't even fall asleep. So we're like, oh, we should probably start like moving this up to maybe like 5 or 6 p.m.
Yeah.
If we're going to eat the Thermo Bowl at night. Just basically for that reason.
That's been the sweet spot.
Yeah, because then it gives you time to kind of wind down.
Yeah.
It does, for some reason, it just kicks in and you have like a massive amount of energy.
And you're laying in there in bed going,
you're like,
just
whoa,
just spinning.
So another thing is like protein's really hard to digest too. So your body's going to be more focused on trying to digest that protein than actually trying to relax.
Okay.
What's interesting is like relaxation is actually a very energetically demanding thing.
Sure.
That's why a lot of people with like hypothyroidism, their mind never shuts off, and that's a lot of the time they have problems like falling asleep and stuff like that, is because they're energy deficient in the brain, and it doesn't have that energy it needs to actually relax, calm down, and get into a sedative state.
Is that like also like a central nervous system thing, or like
Mm-hmm.
that it takes
Probably
energy?
a lack of GABA.
Yeah.
GABA. Okay.
And then they're also mineral deficient in a lot of cases too, so they don't have enough salt, they don't have enough magnesium.
So your
stuff
body's
like
like
that.
trying to patch the boat up, but it's also trying to sleep at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you guys, because you guys obviously been doing this for a while. Do you got any tips on the Thermo Bowls? Because it starts to get, I'll say, a little bit repetitive when I'm doing it over and over again. But I know that you guys have had some tips in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you could basically do variations of any type of, like if you just look at it more of a framework than like the same type of thing over and over. Like if you took a starch as the base.
Sure.
Starchy carb. So say it could be potatoes, it could be sweet potatoes. There's a bunch of different types of potatoes. There's different ways to cook the potatoes.
Sure.
And then you could have, white rice, or bone broth rice.
Okay.
You could do sourdough bread, like get a good organic sourdough. And kind of, that wouldn't even necessarily be a bowl, but like maybe you take that and make some sliders.
Okay, yeah. I know Zach says he's done stuff like that.
Yeah.
That sounds good. The bone broth rice, I haven't even thought of that. That'd be great. Get a
Yeah,
little bit of spice.
bone broth rice is awesome. That's one of the simplest recipes to make. All you do is just boil water, mix in a scoop of the UMZU total bone broth,
Okay.
let it turn into bone broth,
Yeah.
and then you dump the rice in there, and then let it boil and simmer.
Okay.
It tastes incredible. I remember one person in the group, can't remember who it was specifically, but they were saying like their kid doesn't like to eat any sort of healthy food.
Okay.
And then they made the bone broth rice, and their kid loves it and just like won't
There
stop
we
eating. Yeah.
Butter, bone broth, and salt. That's
Yeah,
like all it
right.
was. What I typically do is like I've been separating like my meat from my main like starchy carb.
Okay.
So I'll do like a big bowl of rice or potatoes, and then I'll put like bone broth with an extra scoop of gelatin and salt. And then what I'll do is whenever I'm cooking the meat, I'll separate the egg yolk and the egg white. And so I'll put the egg yolk in there with the potatoes or something, and it is delicious just having that egg yolk in there.
Yeah.
And then I'll toss the egg whites in with the meat, and it gives like the meat a really good texture too. So I'll do that typically.
I could see that.
It's really good.
That's what I was saying. Like if you just like roast a bowl of potatoes, put it there, a little lemon juice or something, salt, and then just cook a bunch of eggs over easier sunny side up. Sunny side up
So they're
if
kinda
it has the yolk's not broken yet.
Okay.
So it's runny, or it's still available to be runny, and then you break it over top of all the potatoes. Oh man.
That day that
money.
you told me, I went back and tried that. I think the first thing I said was like, "Oh, this is a game changer."
Yeah, it's so good. It's like
Yeah, right.
completely delicious.
It's everything that I'm craving.
Yeah, some sort of spice in there, like hot sauce or whatever, make it a little spicy.
Yeah. What's your go-to hot sauce?
Well, certain srirachas you can get Thermo ones. I like sriracha a lot.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my go-to as well.
yeah. Also, there's a really good ghost pepper barbecue sauce at Trader Joe's.
Okay.
It's
Have to
Thermo.
check that out.
Yeah,
I like the chili sauce.
Ooh.
That's pretty good.
chili,
Like some
like
green chilies,
Thai
or-
chili sauce.
Yeah,
or
like
the-
what kind?
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
the same one that makes the sriracha sauce, except it's chili sauce.
Okay.
yeah.
It's really good.
That would be good. I'd be
Yeah.
into that.
Someone in the group made a good chili sauce. Was it? I don't remember who it was. Aaron or somebody?
I don't
I think
know.
it might have been Aaron. Basically took equal parts sriracha and maple syrup,
Okay.
combined it together.
That could be real good.
He did make those rice paper rolls though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
those
think
look
that was
really
the
good.
sauce you might have been dipping it in.
Okay.
Yeah, those rice rolls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I saw that pizza the other day. That looked really good. The rice-based pizza.
Yeah,
That
dude.
looked solid.
Yeah, people in the Thermo group are creative. They're making some really cool stuff.
Right. That's all I'm doing. I'm just like browsing that thing the whole time. Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to get y'all's recipes in Thermo Chef cookbook.
There we go.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
that's the other thing I've been peeking at a lot. That's got
Yeah.
some great recipes in it.
Cool.
I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
Yep,
Be
it's
out
looking
soon
good.
enough.
There we go.
It's
yeah.
coming.
Teased.
Yeah.
Cool. And okay, so what are you looking forward to the most over Thermo30?
Really, you know, I'd like to drop a little bit more weight. I think I'm still carrying around some of the drinking weight for a while. So I would just kind of want to like say goodbye to that. You know, get to a good healthy level. But otherwise, you know, I think you talked about this a lot in the Thor program. But like this idea of getting into the gym and you kind of mastering the equipment, like that's become a lot more apparent to me. Just getting the protein into me, because then it almost like starts to be this gamification kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I am going to beat this thing, or I am going to beat this
Which
machine.
is a real goal for you to have
Yeah.
when you get in there, right?
Yeah, it's like this man versus machine concept. You know?
Yeah.
But that's been one of the biggest things, like the weight dropping, and I'd love to kind of build up a little bit more in the gym. But honestly, man, it's just like clear-headed in the morning, being able to, you know, sustain long conversations without losing focus or anything like that. It's helping every part of, you know, my life. It's been really cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I bet your wife likes that you pay attention to her probably a little bit.
Oh,
too, huh?
absolutely, yeah. No, she wants me to shut up. I come home and I keep talking, and she's like, I gotta try to relax here. Yeah, no, it's been good. My dogs like it, either way.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
But so what are some of the biggest tips that you've used for Thermo?
So a lot of it's been like, trying to space out things, trying to, instead of just like drop it all at once, kind of like when I was talking with the 10,000 steps thing, right? Like find how can I benefit each part of my life through this? Like, you know, my dogs need more exercising. Okay, cool. This works out nicely because I can get 5,000 steps with my dogs. I need to get a little bit more energy during the afternoon. Maybe I'm feeling a little bit tired. Cool, I got this Thermo smoothie that's gonna give me protein and a bunch of carbs to kind of like pick me back up and have that creative flow. I should mention that I am a motion graphic designer, so like that's a very important thing. I have to be able to, you know, have that energy. I can't just crash halfway through. So it's you know, that's where I've been probably feeling it the most.
Yeah. We were talking about this the other day. How's the digestion treating you?
It's been good. In a certain way, I think I described it to Chris the other day as I'm getting a little more intimate with the toilet at the beginning because I'm taking a ton of berries. My Thermo smoothie is like 1 cup of frozen berries, 1 cup of pineapple, and then collagen, and then also like milk, you know, or water. But yeah, that definitely gets the digestion stimulated because, you know, I think we talked about this before too. What is it, 12 hours?
Yeah, so the rate of colon cancer has actually increased tremendously in the U.S., right? And they've done observational studies in Africa where in like the lowest parts that have colorectal cancer, the transit time is usually around 12 hours. So they usually go about twice a day. Whereas in the U.S., the average transit time is about 72 hours. So people are only going like once every third day, you know, which is not good at all. You should,
suck.
Right? There's all this stuff building up.
yeah, you should at least lose about a pound at least once a day, you know, like at least go one good time. And I like to think of it as like it's the second brain. So you have a clear gut, you got a clear mind too.
There we go.
You know, so
That makes sense.
Yeah, and if you have issues in that department, Thermo obviously helps, especially like in the adjustment period.
Yes.
Like as you're getting used to the diet. But another thing that is a fail-proof way of getting rid of all that gunk in there is it's one of our UMZU supplements called Digestive Refresh. And I'll tell you what,
I thought you were going to talk about the other solution.
Oh, we have
found
another
one time.
solution too.
Yeah.
But Digestive Refresh, I would try if you feel like you're like extremely backed up, because constipation is such a big issue because of just like the lack of nutrients in people's diet, the terrible gut microbiome. Digestive refresh will guaranteed clear you out, or will give you all your money back and pay for free supplements for. There's no way it doesn't work. Like, this stuff works way too well.
It's been Chris tested.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone here at the office has tested this stuff. You don't want everyone in the office testing at the same time.
We only got 2 bathrooms right here.
Yeah, we only have 2 bathrooms in here. But there's studies showing in terms of like fecal what do you call it, compound or just
Like waste or-
accumulation in people's bodies, that people can have up to 20 pounds of fecal matter in their body at any time.
20 pounds?
20 pounds.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it until I saw it, and I was like
Damn.
reading this, and I was like, actually true. 10 to 20 pounds of poop just in their body.
Mm-hmm.
Hanging
And
out.
take one cycle of digestive refresh. If that's your thing, like, you will literally get rid of that stuff. There was a guy who left a review. I was reading some of the reviews on the website. He lost 10 pounds in the first week.
That had to
Just
be
shit.
Dang.
That had to be a weird toilet week.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
He said he felt like $1 million after that.
Oh, I bet, man.
Felt way better.
Started.
So you want to talk about the other thing that we discovered?
Yes. So, I'm a scientist. I like to experiment a little bit. And so I was going and I was drinking like 52 ounces of orange juice, just this big thing of orange juice every single day. And I would toss like maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda into this orange juice, and it would like fizz up, and it's really good actually.
It tastes like orange cream soda.
And I got some other people on the boat for a little while with it, and Chris comes in and he gets a glass of orange juice and dumps baking soda in there. And I'm like, oh man, this is not going to be good. Because if you have too many electrolytes, like if you take too much magnesium or something, for example,
Yeah.
you're going to be running to the bathroom. And
Yeah, I mean, they sell magnesium citrate for that reason, right?
Right.
So,
It's a laxative.
And
Yeah.
about 20 minutes later, I look around and Chris is nowhere to be found. And yeah,
that's pretty much the rest of the day. It tastes great. It's like deceiving,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like a nice cream soda,
Mm-hmm.
and then
All of a
boom,
sudden
and then it's like you can't run from that. Like,
Mhm.
there's one place you're running.
It's going to lock you down. The other thing too is, I think you had said Fluorosil 50 was a big
Yeah,
game changer for me. That kind of evened me out quite a bit.
yeah,
That was nice.
yeah. It's like kind of, especially when people are going from a kind of a standard diet or trying keto and stuff that's going to mess your gut up,
Yeah.
to going thermo. There will be an adjustment period, and you're going to want to clear out. If you just think logically about it, like you got to clear out all the bad nonsense going on in there,
Yeah.
and it will take some time, and then you want to repopulate it.
Yeah.
Repopulate your gut with the right prebiotics and probiotics, and that's why we have a prebiotic supplement and a probiotic, Fluorosil, and Fluorosil is one of our most popular supplements for a lot of reasons, and
Yeah.
one of which is just it's so effective. It's like it's really helped a lot of people with major gut issues to completely clear up those issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't even dealing with anything that serious, and it definitely there was a noticeable change like within days of me taking it. It was
Mhm.
a different thing, but
Yeah, it's about ratios. You have to shift the microbiome to a better ratio in
Yeah.
terms of the probiotic strains in it.
Do so like 90% of serotonin is actually produced in the gut, and so one of the things that you can use, and endotoxin is a lot of big ones. So it's like the gram-negative bacteria or the bad bacteria
okay.
that people talk about, and there's actually a lot of correlative studies that show, and correlation doesn't equal causation, but whenever it repeats itself over and over again, like there's
There's
kind
something
of
there.
There is a correlation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's easiest way to say it.
And like there's very little counter evidence for this too. So like endotoxin and serotonin. So serotonin is like an anti-metabolic neurotransmitter, especially whenever it's in excess. And so
It's common to be in excess,
right,
which is weird because everyone's like, oh, you got to increase your serotonin.
yeah,
Take yourself
No,
out.
most people have way too much.
yeah, it's insane. And so one of the things that you can actually do to help lower the amount of endotoxin and serotonin in the gut is stack like activated charcoal with digestive refresh, and you can do that for about a week, and it'll actually lower the amount of endotoxin and serotonin that's being produced in the gut and kind of help reset that. And you'll notice after those 5 days, like you just feel really good, just like your mind's clear, you're crisp. And I think the brain and the gut are intimately connected,
Okay.
Yeah. There's like 100 million something neurons in your gut. So
Right. Yeah. And they're
Yeah.
connected by what is it, the vagus nerve, right? So a lot of
Yeah.
people do like the vagus nerve stimulation and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, and so that endotoxin can get through the lining of the gut, and whenever it's in the peripheral tissues, it's correlated to like high rates of obesity, anxiety, depression, all of these things, because it's increasing the peripheral serotonin too.
Okay.
Leads to a whole host of things going haywire. So
Interesting. I know you guys have referred to, or I've heard you refer to the gut as the second brain
Yeah.
a few times.
Yeah.
That is a really interesting. I've never thought about it that way before.
yeah,
Well, most people don't think about like just the chain of events.
Sure.
What happens? You have food, you eat food, you have to digest the food. The reason you eat food is for energy and nutrients.
Yeah.
And if you can't get access to either one of those because you have a bad gut, then it throws off everything, because your gut is communicating directly with your brain, which triggers all your hormone production.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
That's been one of the biggest game changers too. That I'm now thinking about. I'm thinking about thyroid. I'm thinking about the kind of things that obviously you guys think about on a daily basis, kind of thing. But it's a game changer. Yeah.
What would you say is like the top 3 things that you would recommend to somebody who's considering going thermo,
Sure.
but maybe maybe they dipped their toe in the water or something, but they haven't like really gone in for it yet?
Yeah. If you're just kind of playing around with it, more power to you. It's great. Get into the group, so to speak. One of the things that I've noticed the biggest is like whole foods. This idea that like factory farming is not or its priority is not your health. You know what I mean? It's there to create a product. So just kind of cutting down to these very simple kind of foods, you're going to start feeling better. If you just start cutting out a lot of those, if somebody's on the fence or somebody's kind of like just hanging around in the peripherals, you're probably still taking in a lot of chemicals. You're probably still taking a lot of these like factory processed things. And it's just, you're going to feel all that much better if you just kind of jump in and cut those things out, get these like natural sources. The other thing is like, just having conversations with Jayden about like these like steps, that's changed a lot too. Like, you feel almost this, I don't know how to describe it, but like, your body's just circulating better. Like your body's just moving things around better when I'm in motion, as opposed to just sitting at a desk all the time or like, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But yeah, and as far as like the third thing, we haven't talked about it a lot, but like the breathing exercises in the morning, that I feel a difference, even driving into work, I feel a difference in the afternoon whether I do it or not. It's a matter of like, am I going to have a well-balanced, calm thought, or is it going to be kind of like jumping around?
Like reactive or jumping everywhere.
Yeah. And that's one thing I know you had mentioned was stress reactivity is something that we would like to avoid, and I think breathing has helped a lot with that too.
Yeah. It seems so stupidly simple. I remember before I started doing any sort of breathing exercises or meditation, I was like, I'm not doing that. Like that.
Right.
There's no way that does anything.
This hippie trippy idea thing.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, fuck it. I'll just try it.
Right.
And did it for, a month. And within just even the first week, I was like, whoa, this is kind of weird.
Weirdly
how it's
powerful.
like, it's like really simple and really powerful. Yeah. Because you just feel so much calmer all day.
Yeah.
And then, again, it's almost like anything you're thinking like starts to happen,
Yes.
which is weird.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about too. It's a weird kind of like you put it out there and then it just kind of travels
somehow, like,
towards it.
Gets into your life somehow.
Yeah, you see it happening and you're not even surprised. You're just like, oh yeah, I was meditating on this and now it's happening. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, I guess the common thread that you wove through all that stuff is just the simplicity element. Because thermo is very simple. Every other way of like these big fad diets and all this stuff, they tend to focus on restrictive behaviors. And the difference with thermo is that in the mindset element of it, it's not restrictive. It's more of a focus on simplicity.
Sure.
where it's a different way of thinking about the approach.
Yeah.
And just focusing on simplifying your life, not just in the way you eat, but everything. I mean, most people just overcomplicate their life. Like they do way too much stuff that doesn't have any sort of good impact on anything. And typically by doing that, you have a bad impact on your life.
Yeah.
So focusing on simplifying stuff ends up leaving you with a major step forward.
Yeah.
And it's like way more empowering in terms of how you think.
Absolutely.
It's not like I'm going to cut all this stuff out. It's more like I'm going to take proactive steps toward improving this scenario and simplifying things. I don't need these things. I don't need to eat almonds all the time. I don't need to eat them at all. I don't need to eat all these things that I've been buying and wasting my money on and wasting my health on. I can just simplify my diet to things that are nutrient dense, easy to digest, and are going to support my hormones. And then you don't have to overthink anything.
No.
And you're not thinking, it just slips into a lifestyle without you even noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and we were just talking about this with the breathing thing, but like, I remember you talking about this in terms of Thor as well, but like this balance between mastery and neuroticism, that I don't know what it is when we feel like there's something wrong in our body. We feel like, okay, I got to cut something out. I got to stop doing something completely, as opposed to let's look towards a good goal and like let's just focus on that thing and try to aim towards that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think it is that we tend towards neuroticism, or or I guess just like we try to cut out things as opposed to trying to see a better picture of ourselves?
I think it's a
and
lack
get
of
towards
understanding. I think it goes back to not having the definition of what your goal really is.
that. Sure.
There's a lack of clarity on what you're trying to achieve.
Okay. Yeah.
So there, like you would just be thinking like, oh, I just kind of feel like crap lately. I'm not sleeping very well, gaining weight. Must be something I need to stop doing, right?
Right. I did something
And,
wrong, or
like I must be doing something wrong. So then you start focusing on that negative aspect of like, how do I uproot stuff and whatever, but you're really just like crawling around with your eyes closed, because if you haven't defined what you're actually going for, then you're just going to fall for any of these tricks that all these marketers do with the keto diet and whatever, where they're like, you have to do this, or this is like the new way to supercharge your life and biohack your existence and blah, 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 all this shit. And so that's why it's so easy for people to fall for that sort of thing, because they don't really know they don't have real clarity on what they're trying to get.
right. Okay.
And I think when you have that clarity, you're like, okay, that's really what I want. I want to have my hormones all balanced, because then I'm just going to feel really great. Sexually, I'm going to be awesome. I'm going to lose all this excess body fat, because naturally when your hormones are balanced, your body just tends toward a certain physique, like a natural physique.
Yeah.
Not too low in body fat, not too high. You're going to have a ton of energy. When you get clear on that, it's like, I need to balance my hormones. I don't need to do all this other radical weird stuff.
Yeah.
Then you start you proactively move toward that goal. And that's where that difference in mindset is, because they actually
Mastery.
have like clarity on mastering a goal, and being on that progressive track toward it, instead of crawling around in the dark, like I said, like pulling up weeds that you don't even know what you're doing or why you're doing it.
Yeah.
But that just tends to keep people in the cycle back here, where they're just kind of like stuck.
And dude, and I've been there. It's a terrifying place to be, right? You're just like, my life's getting screwed up, and I don't know what I'm doing to do it.
Yeah, well, and that's why most people, I think, don't believe that they can, be healthy. Like that's why people use genetic scapegoats all the time. That's the easiest one.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, my obesity runs in my family.
Right.
So, no, not really.
Poor eating runs in your family.
Yeah. Habits run in your family.
Right.
Bad habits.
Yeah.
That's why people just tend to give up. They have this like fatalistic attitude about it, because they really don't really understand what they're even going for.
Yeah.
And once you have a clear goal like that, then it's so much easier to move toward it.
And how many times have you heard somebody go, I went to the doctor about this thing, and he just said, that's going to happen now.
Yeah, it's just a sign of aging.
Right. And you're just like,
here's a drug.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Here's your drug that's going to cause 3 other side effects. See you next week.
Yeah.
I got 3 things. So whenever it comes to like the restriction from certain diets and stuff like that, it really instills the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's kind of that negative positive balance.
Yeah. And so like you have all of these things that you don't think there's enough time, you don't think there's enough food, there's not enough energy, there's just not enough. And you're anxious, and you get really tense, and you're stressed out all the time because you don't ever think there's going to be enough.
Defensive because you feel like people are attacking you.
Yeah, instead of having the abundance mindset, realizing that there's enough time. I have my entire life to fix this. I've used my entire life to get to where I am.
Yeah.
And just realizing that, there's always enough. It'll always be provided for. You just have to let it happen, put in the work and put in the time to get there, and it'll happen.
Well, and on the work subject, like a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They want something so fast. It goes back to what you just said about, like, you messed up your health and took your whole life to do it, whether you're 30, 50, 65, like whatever. So you can't expect to do one of these 30-day cleanse programs and completely be,
30 years of
look like Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
which somehow people, that's what they want,
Right.
Which
Give me the magic pill.
Yeah, it makes sense that people would want that,
Yeah.
but it's not realistic whatsoever. It's not, like, you ruined your health and it took your life to do it.
Yep.
Be patient with the process going back. It won't take the rest of your life to fix it, but it will take time. It will take actual work, which is, in this case, changing habits, because it all comes back to your pattern and what the choices you're making.
Yeah, and that was another point that I was going to talk about is, like, people just simply don't want to take responsibility for their actions.
Yeah.
People just want to, a lot of people just have that authoritarian mindset, and they give up their responsibility and their action to this authority, like a doctor, for instance. Like, a doctor doesn't always have your best interest in mind.
Right.
A lot of the times they're just being run by the pharmaceutical industry, and they're taught maybe like 4 hours of nutrition in the entire 8 years that they're in school.
Yeah.
And they have hours upon hours of how to look at symptoms and toss a drug at it. You know.
Yep.
Well, and that's something I wrote about that in the new book about, there's actually studies on medical students, and they have been doing them, I think, since the 70s, that feed a little more info into why that happens.
Sure.
So because it's a bit more nuanced and very understandable and logical, they only get that extremely small amount of time of nutrition training in medical school. On top of the time, or the lack of time, or whatever you want to call it, the quality of the nutrition training is so bad that all the doctors know that it's bad. So therefore it breeds, and this has been studied many times in surveys of medical students. So it breeds this contempt for nutrition.
Sure.
Because they know, even though they don't know much more than the average person by the time they're a med student about nutrition, they know that nutrition information is not right.
Right.
So that they're getting the education for. So then they're like, well, yeah, okay, whatever. So nutrition has no impact. Let's just focus on all this other stuff.
Pharmaceuticals, throwing pills at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like this really damning feedback loop that's in medical schools right now, and has been since the 70s, where the med students just stop believing in nutrition entirely while they're in school because of the lack of education and the fact that they know it's poor quality education.
Sure.
So they're just like, well, that can't possibly have an impact on the body.
Right.
So we're not even going to focus on that because they don't believe in it.
Right. Right.
Because it's just so bad.
Right.
The information.
Another thing I've noticed too is, like, I mean, you were talking about how, like, a doctor may or may not have your best interest at heart. I mean, a doctor's in a corner too, because most likely he's known for the 5 other doctors that had the shit suit out of him. You know what I mean? So, like, he's got to almost be like, I'm just practicing liability. I can't really practice health anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
the malpractice insurance costs a fortune for doctors. So therefore they are kind of walking on eggshells a lot of the time in terms of what they can tell people to do and what they're willing to tell people to do to protect themselves, which makes sense. I mean, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on their education.
Right.
By the time you do that, you don't want to ever admit that you wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on that education. Like, imagine if you spent $100,000 on books that you couldn't return,
right.
and you
doubled down on
and
those
you
books.
spent 6 to 8 years of your life reading those books.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh god damn,
Right.
these aren't even true. Or they were focused. I was focused on such the wrong thing, but now this is my career. Like, this is how I make my living.
Right.
This is how I support my family.
This is my value.
So it makes sense that a lot of the filter, like the mental filters in that person's mind, would kind of go toward, like, okay, I can't lose my job, which most people. So I can't. I'm already paying a fortune for thousands of dollars a month for malpractice insurance.
Right.
So I have to kind of stick within the playbook here. I can't like wander off the road.
Right.
With my patients. I'm also running a business. So most doctors are private practice, or they're in a hospital system, so they have to like adhere to the hospital system's rules, which hospitals are businesses. So they're going to hold them accountable for the results. Or if they're in a private practice, they have to generally see a certain amount of patients every day in order to make enough money to live and pay for their family and pay the bills, pay their insurance. Yeah. Therefore, it even makes perfect sense why they're not going to sit there and like want to give you nutritional counseling. Most of them want to cycle in as many patients as possible in a day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or be financially ruined.
Yeah. So it's kind of when you really think about the system, it's not really set up to be a system that you want to trust with your nutritional advice at all. So stop trying, stop expecting the doctor to give you good advice on nutrition.
Right. I remember I moved here from Michigan, and I remember asking a doctor about nutrition over there, and she just goes, well, you know how to eat. And that was literally the advice. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this is not the source I'm finding this out.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the advice that they do give people is absolutely terrible. Like take fish oil for your heart.
Yeah.
Or for your joints. And it's like...
Well, it's like urban legend stuff, conventional wisdom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the times it's doing the exact opposite of what you want it to do.
Yeah.
It's actually just making the problem worse. Or like a lot of people take, Ambien for sleep whenever they might just be magnesium deficient and need a little bit of magnesium supplementation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're tweeting racist stuff on Twitter.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's crazy too, like the lack of just testing and like scientific approach to medicine. With my brain tumor issues when I was in my late teens, it took almost 2 years since I had symptoms before I could get a blood test.
Whoa.
They put me in group therapy, and put me on antidepressants a year before I even could get a blood test.
Group therapy?
Group therapy. I had to go to the stupid group therapy class.
What is that going to help?
Exactly. It doesn't help anything because that wasn't my problem. I'm not,
right. Just talking to people about it.
No, and that's why, like, personally, I had this vendetta where I'm like, this is all messed up. This is all backwards. And there wasn't a blood test until I literally went in and like begged the person for a blood test.
Just take my blood.
I was like, give me a blood test. And within 2 seconds of looking at the blood test results, he was like, I have to send you a specialist. This is like way worse than I could have imagined.
Jeez.
So I'm like, oh yeah, thanks.
Right.
And one thing that gets me is like with the blood test, the insurance is paying for it, or you're paying out of pocket. Like the doctor doesn't spend a dime
or extra time really, rather than like interpreting the test for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times you can just look at it yourself and figure out what's going on,
Yeah.
But they're so against giving you a blood test whenever you ask for it. Like I've gone to a doctor and asked for a full panel, and they've gotten like 3 things tested, and I'm like,
that wasn't a full panel?
What?
Yeah. It's like, I just want to know, and I really believe like we have the right to get access to our biological information.
Right. It's yours.
Especially if we're paying insurance, we're paying all this stuff. We pay the copay.
Yeah.
We go there. We have the right to have that information.
Right.
As often as we want.
Why would a doctor keep that locked up in the first place? Yeah.
And I think one thing is looking at it from a reductionist point of view versus a holistic point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So they look at one thing through a keyhole rather than looking at it as a whole system, And so it's very hard for them to get the whole picture.
Well, that's how the education is set up to operate in med schools, because you basically become a specialist of some kind. Most doctors do. Therefore, like you're only focused on the cardiovascular system, or you're only focused on the brain, or you're only focused on bones. Therefore, like the obsessive amount of time that goes into learning about bones, for example, or the cardiovascular system, kind of shapes the worldview.
Yeah.
So then it's like, that's the lens that specialist is only going to ever see anything through.
Right. it's all about the cardiovascular system, and that affects everything.
Yeah.
And how many times have we been in a group of people, and somebody's like talking about something healthy or with health, and they'll be like, oh, but you know what, you're a doctor, you talk about it, and it's like, the guy's a chiropractor or something, like, something that, doesn't necessarily look, I guess chiropractor is a bad example, but like a cardiovascular specialist, where they're like, okay, you talk to me about nutrition. It's like, well, this guy spent all his time looking at cardiovascular systems.
Yeah, he's studying the heart, he's studying blood, and
yeah, right.
It's just different.
Different stuff.
Speaking of perspective, how has your perspective changed just at like looking at different foods and stuff? Like, do you actually look at like beef differently?
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, like it's funny because I probably take twice the amount of time in a grocery store now because I'm just like, all right, what's this?
Yeah.
For like,
read it.
For like 30 seconds before everything. But that's been a huge thing. I was never a big fan of factory farming in the first place, but like now that I'm kind of getting into these more natural kind of like science meets nature kind of concepts, it's been a whole different way of like approaching even meat. I used to think meat's meat, but no, it's like, you can have this kind of level meat or you can have like this kind of level meat, and usually there's $2 difference. It's not a huge, and like you pointed out with the $20 thing, like it's not a hard thing to do.
It's something that most people could cut from another part of their budget. Like you could say, well, instead of eating out one day this week, I'm just gonna get some better food at the grocery store, or instead of going and ordering all these movies or going just do something like completely not productive for their health, then you just put that budget over into just better food, like slightly more expensive eggs or more expensive meat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not even that much more expensive. It's not like double the price.
You're just prioritizing it. That's all it is. You're just prioritizing your health.
Yeah, like stop going to Starbucks and getting that $5 cup of coffee.
Sure.
Use that extra $5 to get a little bit better, beef or eggs.
You can buy grass-fed beef
whatever.
for $5 for a pound now.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's easy to find.
Yeah.
That can last you 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not me.
Yeah.
Right. No, yeah, and it's as simple as like, I go to King Soopers. They have like this grass-fed, grass-finished 1 pound thing.
Yep.
And it's delicious. It's great. Even as you're cooking it, you're like, oh, this smells a lot different than,
It smells good. The texture is a little different.
Yeah, it breaks up a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's like kind of crumbly.
Yeah, and it mixes a lot better. That's the best thing. I'm hungry for it now.
Yeah, that's what I'm eating when I get home.
Yeah, right? Yeah, the Thermo bowls are bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been really cool.
What have you noticed that, besides being in the office, what other resources have you utilized and found like the most useful?
Yeah, sure. Like, are you talking about like at the gym or like with dietary or?
Like between the course, different videos, things that you read, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, as far as like the gym, I have been working a little bit with the Warrior Shredded program from Kino Body.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a big one. I'm in phase 3 right now, and that just gives me a frame for how to approach the gym. Like one of the biggest things that was difficult before, I was more of an endurance kind of trainer before, and after kind of realizing, okay, that's really bad for, especially the male body, coming here and kind of getting into the gym, I was always kind of a little intimidated to get into the gym because I felt like, oh, I'm going to be using these machines wrong, or I'm going to be, doing something stupid. But like Zach actually was the one that he was like, hey, I'm going to take you to the gym like 3 days a week for a month or something, and just make sure that you do these things without hurting yourself. And that was the biggest game changer, was just having somebody kind of be like, hey, I'm going to help you out just because, you know what I mean? And that was a big thing. And that allowed me to move on with the gym, allowed me to move to phase 2 and move to phase 3. And I feel so much more confident. I get excited about going to the gym now, as opposed to like, there's gonna be all these like, these machines that I don't really know how to use. Mm-hmm. So that's been a huge thing. It's just tapping into or utilizing the information around me. You know what I mean? Just finding different sources of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Cool. Any parting words before we wrap up the show?
Get Thermo. Honestly, it's a game changer, and the more the merrier when it comes to this Thermo30 thing. I mean, like, I don't know when this is going to be coming out, but like, this has been a blast. I mean, even just like doing it with other guys in the office here and whatnot. Everybody's bringing in their smoothies or talking about their bowls and whatnot. It's been cool. It's been a really good group.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Anytime.
You'll probably be on more podcasts, I'm assuming.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
if you want.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, people, if you're listening to this show and you have questions that you want to ask any of us, Brenton included, you can either find us in the Thermo group or leave questions in the Thermo Facebook group, and just if they're good questions that, if we have time, we can do podcast episodes on them.
Yeah.
We want this podcast to be just like this resource that the community can use whenever they want to learn and pass time and go on a walk and listen to it and learn stuff. So we want to make sure that the shows that we're doing are relevant to the people that are listening to it, which
Absolutely.
makes sense, right? So if you have good questions, leave them in the group for us, tag us.
Yeah.
And
these guys are both really active in there too. If you haven't gotten into the group yet, these guys answer questions usually within a day. It's amazing.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a sweet group.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. Wherever you're listening to us, maybe it's on Spotify, maybe it's on iTunes, maybe it's on YouTube. Be sure and subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
Leave us a good review if you think good things about this. If you don't, don't leave a review.
Get out of here.
Just subscribe and keep listening. Check out our other shows, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Yeah. Don't forget about the nickname thing that's going on as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, did you catch today's?
Ooh.
Yeah, we have all the links to the description, all the links in the description for thermodiet.com, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff too.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks for listening. See you on the next show.